Unexplained Horrors, The Sinister Dogs of the Witch and 13 Spine-Chilling Tales Revealed. In the charming little suburb of Maplewood, every house seemed to glimmer with the warm light of fall. Yet as the sun dipped and shadows grew long, whispers filled the crisp air, stories of a witch's curse that twisted the very veins of the neighborhood. Sarah could almost feel the weight of those tales in her chest as she tucked Liam and Ava into bed. After a grueling shift at the diner, fatigue clung to her like a damp coat. Sleep threatened, but a flutter of anxiety kept her awake. A bone-chilling thought danced in her mind. Remember the flickering shadows she'd seen? Just tricks of an overworked imagination, she told herself. But the nagging suspicion remained that Halloween night, the street buzzed with excitement, mirth cloaked the neighborhood. But Sarah's heart sank when chaos erupted across the schoolyard. Liam was missing. A dark shroud fell over her. Searching eyes met with the indifferent glances of officers, more concerned with calming the crowd than finding her boy. Hollow reassurances echoed back, sending a chill racing down her spine. Had he wandered too far, or was something far worse lurking in the shadows? As the moon hung high, a foreboding whisper twisted through the trees, drawing Sarah toward the depths of the dark woods surrounding Maplewood. Panic elevated her senses. Each rustling leaf felt alive, and every creak of aged branches echoed a warning. Just then, her heart hammered as she caught a glimpse of something watching her, a looming black shape, gliding just out of reach of her phone's flashlight. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Ava sensed it too. "Mommy, my new friend says he is looking for Liam," she chirped innocently, her wide eyes reflecting an innocent fear that twisted Sarah's gut. The hairs on Sarah's arms stood at attention. What if her daughter had invited an evil presence into their home? Was the dog haunting them? The witch's legend lumbered unforgivingly like a shadow in her mind. As Sarah pushed deeper into the woods, frantic and breathless, the atmosphere thickened with despair. She stumbled upon old, jagged roots and hidden paths, where the darkness felt alive and marked with an unsettling power. Memories of smiling neighbors faded as she pieced together the truth. They all knew something. One neighbor, who seemed friendly enough, hid unspoken horrors behind forced smiles. Just as Sarah's resolve began to waver, she heard howls deep, mournful, and harrowing in the night. The ground trembled beneath her, and with each breath, a nasty taste of fear invaded her senses. Then, the piercing laughter of a child intertwined with a low growl sent her heart racing as she realized the true horror of this night. The dogs were not merely folklore, they craved something, someone, her son. What if there's no escape? She thought dreadfully, as her surroundings swirled into blackness. She wasn't just battling shadows anymore, she was facing the very essence of her fears. Her body quaked as the sinister presence bounded closer, merging Liam's laughter with the guttural growls that echoed all around her, until every corner of her mind screamed out her name. Sarah stumbled backward, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. Every instinct screamed for her to run, to escape that dark embrace, but the eerie laughter had frozen her in place. It echoed through the forest, bouncing off the trees like cruel taunts. The laughter pierced her like an arrow, sharp and urgent, as if saying, "You're too late." She took a shaky breath and forced herself to focus. Where was Liam? The growls were growing closer, mixing with that chilling laughter, forming a cacophony that threatened to drown her in fear. "I have to find him," she whispered to herself, though her legs felt heavy like they were filled with stones. The memory of Liam's warm smile flickered in her mind, fueling her determination to keep going. The trees around her seemed to close in, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Moonlight flickered through the leaves, casting erratic shadows that danced mockingly. Just ahead, a small clearing opened up, and in its center stood a dilapidated shack, its door ajar, creaking eerily in the chilling breeze. Without thinking, Sarah sprinted toward it, each step echoing through the night. As she approached, the laughter faded, replaced by silence so profound it felt wrong. It was the kind of silence that prickled the skin, settling like frost in the air. "Liam!" she screamed as she burst through the door. The room was dark, the smell of damp earth and decay wrapping around her like a shroud. She fumbled for her phone, the beam of light cutting through the darkness. And there, scattered across the floor, were Liam's toys lying like forgotten memories in a graveyard of innocence. Clenching her jaw, Sarah scooped up a small stuffed bear, its eyes shining brightly even in the dim light. "My God," she breathed, feeling that lead weight of fear in her stomach. The chill clawing at her didn't just come from the dark, it felt alive, breathing. Watching her. A noise behind her made her spin around. A shadow moved in the corner of the room, creeping away before she could pinpoint it. Panic surged as she staggered back, pressing against the wall. "Liam!" She shouted again, desperation seeping into her voice, wondering if her own child was trapped in this nightmare. A heartbeat, the strangest sound in that suffocating silence. Her pulse raced as she finally spotted a small figure huddled in the far corner, half hidden by an upturned chair. Her breath caught in her throat. "Liam? Mommy?" He whimpered, his voice small and trembling. His face was dirty, tear-streaked. Relief flooded through her, but it was quickly overshadowed by the unmistakable snap of a branch outside, followed by low, haunting growls. "Stay right there!" she ordered, even though she wanted nothing more than to rush to him. Her gaze darted to the door, those growls were closer now. Something was out there, something wicked. How had it gotten so close? Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, rattling the shack to its core. Darkness enveloped them, and the growls intensified, melding into ghostly howls that resonated deep in her bones. The heavy silence was suffocated by a rising panic as the walls of the shack felt like they were closing in, a trap forged by ancient evil. "Stay hidden, Liam!" she cried, feeling the terror claw its way into her throat. The scraping sound of claws began against the wooden surface outside. They were here, the dogs of the witch, drawn to them like moths to flame. Just then, a faint glimmer of light illuminated a corner of the room, a glimmer that came from a necklace she recognized. Her mother's pendant, woven with ancient curse markings. But how had it ended up here? What if it holds the key to his escape? She thought. Yet, in pursuing the light, she could hear footsteps getting louder, monstrous shadows creeping closer to claim their prey. Tension coiled deep inside her, as a low growl rumbled from beyond the door, blending with the urgency of her racing thoughts. As horror crept closer, what would she have to sacrifice to save Liam? And just as Sarah reached for the pendant, the world around them erupted with bone-chilling howls. The howls shattered the silence like glass, sending shards of dread spiraling through Sarah's mind. The air felt electric, alive with foreboding. She spun, eyes wide, heart thrashing against her ribs. The shadow lurking in the corner was motionless now, as if watching, waiting for the right moment to pounce. "Liam, stay down!" she hissed. The weight of the pendant pulled at her with an unseen force, urging her closer, its markings swirling with dark promise. The growls outside grew insistent, a primal symphony, each note a reminder of the danger creeping ever closer. Then the noise shifted, a low scraping sound against the shack's wooden walls, like claws seeking entry. Breath caught in her throat, Sarah's mind raced. She had to be quick. The pendant glimmered again, teasing her with the hope of protection. If it had once belonged to her mother, maybe it still held its power. As the growling intensified, a thought struck her. What if the necklace could reveal a path, a way out? Patience, she told herself. She needed courage now more than ever, but the shack trembled as if it were a living creature defending itself against an unseen beast. The door shuddered violently, rattling against its frame. Shadows flickered, stretching grotesquely toward the pendant. They slithered like ink pooling on paper, dark and glistening, reflecting her fear back at her with disdain. "Liam!" she yelled again, forcing her feet to move. She darted toward the shimmering light. Her fingers brushed against the cool metal of the pendant, and in an instant, a searing pain shot through her hand. Visions flooded her mind like a tidal wave. Brief flashes of memories long buried surfaced with clarity, her mother, chanting strange incantations, a family picnic under the sun, then shadows, always shadows lurking just outside the safety of her vision. The growls morphed now into whispers, twisted threads of voices that crawled into her ear, wrapping around her thoughts. "Join us, it's your fate. Let go." "No!" she screamed, jerking her hand back, feeling the heat of the pendant as if it were alive. The shadows recoiled for a moment, then surged forward, slamming against the walls of the shack, a furious tide ready to break through. She had to act. With trembling hands, Sarah grasped the pendant tightly and raised it high. Light burst from it like a beacon, cutting through the darkness. The growls screeched, turning to agonized howls as the shadows writhed away from the light. "Liam!" She called again, her voice full of urgency as she turned toward where she last saw him. Heart pounding, she scanned the dim room. "Run to me! Now!" But as Liam hesitated, frozen by terror, the pendant flickered and dimmed, the shadows regrouping, stronger now, more insistent. The door splintered, drawing her attention again. She had only moments to make her move. "Come on, baby, trust me." Anger replaced her fear, building like a storm within. She rushed toward Liam, practically diving on the floor to pull him into her arms. His body was cold and trembling, every instinct in her being screamed for survival. With a primal roar, the door splintered apart, revealing a mass of shadow and eyes glowing, hungry eyes, the witch's dogs finally breaking through the threshold, free from their dark prison. "Now!" she shouted. With the pendant gripping tightly in her hand, she turned and bolted for the only other exit she could see, a small window at the back. The scent of damp earth wafted into the air, mixing with the putrid smell of something ancient and rotten, but wasn't he just the dogs that hunted them? What terrible darkness loomed beyond that frame? As they crashed through the splintered wood and into the night, the world exploded into chaos. The trees seemed to twist and close around them again, and the howling continued, echoing from all sides. "Mommy, what are we running from?" Liam's wide eyes searched hers, filled with fear and confusion. She hesitated for a moment, glancing back at the shack now receding in the distance, skeletal fingers of shadows pulling at them. "Something that hunts based on fear. My love, something that wants us both," she whispered, pulling him closer, and just then, a chilling realization dawned on her. The pendant, what if keeping it meant inviting their pursuers into their lives? In that moment of terror, they stumbled into the woods, but the shadows followed closely behind, relentless. What footsteps did they echo in the mist? Could the pendant truly keep them safe? And as they raced further into the darkness, deeper into the heart of the forest, a whisper rose from the void: "You will never escape." Branches whipped at Sarah's arms, snagging her, tearing her clothes as she pushed deeper into the tangled underbrush. Each snap of a twig echoed like a gunshot in the eerie silence between the howls. "Mommy!" Liam's voice broke through the din, full of panic. She glanced back, feeling his grip slip just a fraction. Fear surged like icy water. "Stay close. Don't let go," she shouted, matching each word with an effort to keep the frantic pace. They had to find a place to hide, a moment to breathe. The shadows felt alive, stalking them, guided by that primal instinct to hunt. Each growl seemed to twist and tangle in the rustling leaves, wrapping around them like a noose. As they ran, the pendant pulsed in her hand, a heartbeat not her own stronger, almost angry. "What do you want from me?" she gasped, caught in a whirlwind of terror and disbelief. The pendant grew warmer, glowing faintly, reminding her of her mother's warnings when she was young. It felt both like a shield and a curse. They must have covered miles, but the darkness was a thick fog around them, swallowing their last remnants of courage. Suddenly, the underbrush opened up into a clearing, moonlight spilling carelessly across the ground. It felt too still, even the shadows paused with them, looming just beyond the edge of the clearing. Liam tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, I see something." There, half buried in the earth, was a weathered stone tablet, etched with symbols that swirled in tandem with the pendant's glow. With her heart pounding, she knelt beside it, brushing her fingers over the ancient carvings. "What is this?" she whispered, her breath hitting the air like a gust, heavy and foreboding. Images invaded her thoughts again, scenes of a village, people gathering to chant under a full moon, shadows dancing just out of reach, a sacrifice, a darkness unshackled. Each memory twisted into her mind like a vine choking the life from a tree. The pendant flared brighter, overwhelming her with light, breaking the painful reverie, but she sensed the shadows regrouping beyond the edge of the clearing, consolidating their power. "Liam!" she cried, scrambling to her feet. "We have to go." Yet, her son was transfixed, eyes wide with a strange pull toward the stone. "Mom, it feels safe." "No!" Panic shot through her. It's not safe, it's a trap. But as she reached for him, the pendant pulsed with an insistent energy. Shadows swirled closer, transparent forms flowing like mist, unfurling out of the darkness. She could hear whispers rising, a chorus murmuring like wind through leaves, weaving a net of dread. Together we rise. Liam stepped forward, entranced. Mommy, I think it can help us. Liam, don't. Sarah lunged, grabbing his wrist just as he reached the edge of the stone. The shadows recoiled, a collective hiss echoing in the night. Do you feel it? He gasped, eyes glistening with desperation. It knows us. But then, like a punch to her stomach, the shadows closed in, the chilling breath of the witch's dogs reaching them. Endless hungry eyes gleamed. Fighting a swell of despair, Sarah yanked Liam back, shoving the pendant into his hand. You must use it. It's our only chance. He stared, confusion and fear melding together. The shadow surged, attempting to claw its way into the light, raking at Sarah's very being, forcing her to take a step back. No! She shouted, concentrate. It's the only way out. The shadows howled, angry and insatiable, and Sarah felt the darkness creep through her, dulling her senses to the encroaching danger. But maybe, just maybe, that stone had the power to trap the shadows. The pendant could unlock its potential. She couldn't falter now. Liam, look at me. She gripped his shoulders, forcing him to focus. You have to take it and speak the words. It's our only hope. Mom, I don't trust me. Just then, a final surge of shadows lunged at them, night curling in like a serpent ready to strike. Sarah knew they were trapped here, that an ending was near. The pendant thrummed violently in their hands, responding to her words, drawing energy from the growing chaos. And then the whispers crescendoed, a terrible roar from the abyss, you will never escape. The ground shook, cracking beneath them. Did she truly believe in the pendant? Would it be their salvation or their downfall? Time seemed to freeze as the shadows drew ever closer, framing the two of them in darkness, just as whispers filled the air, an overlap of voices, clawing from the depths of despair. What if she was wrong? In that moment of terrifying uncertainty, she knew one thing: they had to risk it all. The shadows lunged, a mass of darkness with gnashing teeth and desperate hunger. Sarah pulled Liam close, shielding him with her body, but the weight of the encroaching terror felt like a heavy fog pressing down on them. She could see their glinting eyes now, dozens of them, surrounding them in the clearing, gleaming with a violent hunger. Now, Liam. She shook him, desperation flooding her voice. You have to believe in the pendant. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them in a maelstrom of dread. Together we rise. Mommy, I can't. Liam's voice trembled, the pendant slipping in his hand. The glow flickered, but with a sudden ferocity, it flared up as if responding to her son's fear. In that split second, she felt warmth radiate outwards, wrapping around them like a hug from a long-lost friend. Yet shadows pressed in on them, hungry growls vibrating the very air. They had no intention of letting this family escape. Please. Sarah cried, pushing Liam forward, forcing him to focus on the stone tablet. You have to listen to it. Just say what it tells you. As he staggered back, caught between the glowing pendant and the dark mass inching toward them, her heart raced. The pull of the pendant mixed with the weight of uncertainty, and she found herself praying to a god she didn't believe in. Make it work. Speak. Just speak. She pleaded, panic slicing through her courage. Liam took a deep breath, eyes locked on the tablet. I will try, he whispered, steeling himself against the whispers growing sharper, more insistent. The shadows shrieked in anger, and the force of their fury bowled forward, just as Liam began to chant. Eternal darkness, heed my plea. Bind these shadows, let us be free. As his voice wavered, amplifying in the thick air, shadows around them hissed, recoiling, and twisting like angry serpents. The ground beneath them pulsed violently, responding to the words as the markings on the stone began to glow, illuminating the clearing in sires of light. Keep going. Sarah urged, gripping his shoulders tight, anchoring him against the chaos. Eternal shadows for our wrongs, let us bind, until we are free. Liam's voice strengthened, resonating through the air. The darkness roared, audibly angry, recoiling as if burned by the light cascading from the stone. The air thickened with the scent of decay and terror, but Liam held on, the pendant glowing fiercely, almost blinding. With the last ounce of courage, he screamed, "Let us go or be bound to this world." The shadows wailed in recognition, a cacophony of fury. For a heartbeat, everything hung in a fragile balance, a moment suspended before the floodgates opened. The ground split, and shadows were dragged back in swirling eddies, their bodies writhing in pain as though the earth itself recoiled from their wickedness. But the pendant dimmed, the stone darkening, and a terrible realization hit Sarah like a punch. The darkness wouldn't just be bound, it would come for them. "Liam! We can't hold them!" she shouted, fear rippling through her as the air thickened, tangible and choking. "Let me just," Liam gasped, but a shadow lunged for him, snapping at his feet. The pendant flickered, barely keeping the shadows at bay, and Sarah fought against the rising tide of dread. She couldn't let them be overwhelmed. Not now, not after this glimpse of hope. "Liam! We need to change the chant." The boy hesitated, confusion and terror etched across his young face. "But what if it doesn't work?" Before she could answer, a howl echoed through the clearing, a raw sound that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. The largest of the dark forms stood at the edge, a creature of twisted fury and bulging muscles, eyes glowing like coals in the dark. "It has to work," she screamed, her spirit battling despair. "We risk everything, Liam." With desperation fueling each word, she encouraged, "Say what's in your heart now." Liam found his voice again, stronger than before. "Shadows of despair, be gone from here. We call on light of hope and cheer." The pillaring darkness shuddered, teetering on the brink of something terrible. The whispers spiraled into a storm, erupting, and yet the light began to rise. It pulsed as his voice grew, and the gigantic beast drew closer, snarling, bared teeth weaving with malice. Would their plea be enough? Could they break free, or were they destined to become shadows themselves, trapped forever in a dance of darkness? Just as hope ignited, a new sound pierced through a grating, discordant howl coming from behind them. Something else was out there. Threatening. Waiting. Sarah felt her breath hitch. What awaited them in the dark? The howl grew louder, a deep, guttural sound that reverberated through the trees like the growl of a beast from the deepest shadows. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, a war drum echoing terror. She turned, eyes wide, scanning the opaque darkness behind them. The smog seemed alive, swirling and shifting, almost feeding the anticipation of what crept just beyond their sight. "Mom! What is that?" Liam's voice cracked, a raw edge woven through panic. The air shifted again, pregnant with dread. She could feel it, the weight of something dreadful lurking just out of reach, pulsing like a heartbeat matching her own frantic rhythm. This was no ordinary beast. It felt ancient, a remnant of nightmares conjured by whispered incantations and shadowy promises. "Stay close, Liam," Sarah commanded, forcing the panic to strengthen her resolve. She couldn't let fear control them. Not now. But her stomach knotted tight, the pendant flickered erratically, fighting against the dark encroaching on all sides. Then, through the swirling shapes, they emerged. Creatures of nightmares, their eyes glowing like burning embers. They were larger than dogs, long limbs and twisted bodies that pulsed with malignance. Their jagged teeth glinted in the dark, dripping with some unknown viscous fluid that made Sarah's stomach churn. "Run!" she shrieked, the command erupting from her throat as she grabbed Liam's hand, pulling him toward the narrow opening in the trees. But the shadows weren't finished. The immense creature, black and hulking, snarled as it lunged forward. Sarah could see its terrible maw open wide, ready to consume them whole. "Liam, move!" They dashed through the thick underbrush, vines snapping underfoot as branches clawed at them. The sounds of the beast's furious growls echoed behind them, hot breath stirring the air. Sarah held tight, fear driving her forward like a whisper against her back. "Mom, I can't keep up." Liam's voice was breaking, each breath a struggle. "We have to," she urged, glancing back just in time to see the shadows darting with malicious speed. "Trust the pendant. Focus on it." But the pendant dimmed again, the glow flickering like a flame about to drown. Limbs churned, thick and painting terror on her mind. Each gnash of fangs echoed louder, closer, promising swift death. How long could they run? Would their feet carry them far enough? Listen! Liam yelled suddenly, struggling to keep up. What if it tells me something again? Yes. Sarah shouted, though doubt gnawed at her. Just don't stop. Please. They burst into a small clearing, the moonlight pooling against the ground. Shadows still swayed behind them, writhing in anticipation. Liam stumbled, nearly falling but catching himself just in time. I can feel it. Then say it. Whatever it tells you. She cried, her voice rising over the roars of the dark beasts closing in. Liam, panting, focused on the pendant, desperation etched across his small features. Eternal shadows, he began softly, but the growls drowned him out. Louder! Sarah shouted, fear turning her words into raw shouts. You need to be louder. Eternal shadows, be gone from here. He shouted, voice breaking. At that moment, she saw it. A shimmer, tiny light sparked around the pendant. It was awakening again. Just as the dark forms surged into the clearing, teeth bared, Liam's chant rose above their anguished cries. We call on hope, be stronger than fear. Light, please save us. Let it be clear. In that split second, the ground trembled. The air thickened as if the very fabric of night hesitated, but just then, from the dark, a voice rippled through the night, deep and seething. Foolish child, shadows were never meant to vanish. A chill swept through Sarah's core. No. This voice was not Liam's. It was coming from inside the shadows. Something else, darker. What new horrors awaited them in this dark? The world around them lurched, the air coiling thick with unease. Liam's voice echoed weakly amidst the monstrous growls, the pendant-esque glow flickering like a candle threatened by an impetuous wind. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. What do we do? She gasped, desperation clawing at her insides. Keep chanting. Liam urged, his tone clear despite tremors coursing through his small frame. Maybe it will work again. The creatures lurked, poised like spirits of the night, the malevolence radiating from them felt like a tide threatening to drown any glimmer of hope. Their glowing eyes locked onto Sarah and Liam, but the shadows still shifted, a primordial darkness wrapped around the clearing like a shroud, pulsing with life of its own. She swallowed hard, heart racing. Eternal shadows, be gone from here. Liam shouted again, and the words sliced through the tension like a knife. The pendant surged, a tiny beacon against the encroaching void, but the dark voice laughed, resonating off the trees, thick and taunting. You think you can command what you do not understand? The laughter was chilling, echoing, and morphing through the trees. Sarah felt the ground beneath them tremble again, a low rumble that seemed to whisper. They hunger for more than your simple chants, Mom. Liam trembled beside her, pulling at her jacket. Panic overwhelmed his voice. What does it mean? Don't listen, Liam. She barked, forcing herself to push fear deep down. How could she protect him when the roots of that fear dug deeper? What's coming for us? We have to fight it. The ground shook harder now, the dark shapes quivering, as if anticipating a prelude to a feeding frenzy. The largest creature reared its head, its maw stretching impossibly wide, a gaping abyss lined with jagged teeth that seemed to glisten with fresh blood. Say it again. Sarah screamed, desperation clawing at her mind. Say it louder. Liam's voice broke again. Oh okay. Eternal shadows, be gone from here. Light. Please save us. Tendrils of light from the pendant shot forth, illuminating the darkness momentarily. She saw flashes of their horrific faces, all glimmering eyes and razor-sharp teeth, before the light flickered again. A surge of hope and dread entwined within her. The cacophony of beastly growls amplified, surrounding them. Weakness will always bend to strength. The dark voice slithered through the air, wrapping around their senses like a vice. Join us, become one with the eternal night. A cold wave of dread crashed over Sarah. They would not be consumed. She refused to let her son fall into those gnarled hands of despair. The pendant pulsed softly in her palm, flickering somehow, capturing the balance of battle between darkness and fleeting light unfolding within. Focus, Liam. She yelled, holding the pendant firmly. What else do you feel? What else does it say? For the light, we fight. Shadows will break with dawn's rise. The growl of the creature echoed, furious and frustrated. The ground shuddered more violently now, sending them both staggering. The beasts lunged forward as one, sharp claws slicing through the air, a storm of chaos aimed right at them. The night around pulled taut, ready to unleash its most sinister tendencies. Liam! Stick with me! Sarah shouted, refusing to falter as the phantoms of darkness surged around them, claws outstretched, teeth bared, hungry and relentless. Suddenly, a terrible howl erupted from the throats of the beasts, harmonizing with an echo that sent a rippling sensation through the air. Sarah's heart raced as she braced herself, instincts kicking in, and then, right in the heart of the darkness, she noticed it a flicker, a darker shadow amidst the shadows, moving differently. It wasn't just any creature. It seemed human. Mom! Liam screamed, fear erupting again, pulling Sarah's attention back to her son, but before she could respond, the darkness enveloped them once more. Panic shot through her body like ice water. What had she just seen? Was it truly human, or something else? As the beasts closed in, fear tore at her sanity, and she realized they were teetering on the brink of something far more sinister than imagined. Liam! She screamed as shadows surged, and the dark would take whatever they could get, but would it be their souls or their sanity? The darkness had only begun to reveal its secrets. The ground exploded beneath them as shadows lunged forward, a wave of pitch-black fury ready to consume everything in their path. Sarah gasped, pulling Liam close, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. Stay behind me! She shouted over the growls, knowing that her words were more a plea than a command. The pendant's dim light fought against the thick darkness, but was slowly being snuffed out. She could feel its weakness, a sensation like a sinking stone weighing down her confidence. The hungry eyes locked onto them glinted with a malevolence that pierced through the gloom. What's happening? Liam whimpered, trembling. His small frame shook against her leg like a leaf in a storm. Just keep chanting. She didn't know how much more of this she could bear. The weight of despair threatened to pull her under, but she couldn't afford to let go. Eternal shadows, be gone from here. Liam repeated, his voice wavering, but desperation forged strength behind his words. Light! Please save us. With each invocation, the creatures shifted, momentarily recoiling, their hungry snouts snapping at the light as if it burned them. For an instant, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Yet in that fleeting moment, the dark voice whispered again, swirling through the clearing like smoke. You fool! This light is but a flicker against the eternal void. You will never win. A spine-chilling howl pierced the air, a monstrous assembly of guttural ferocity that rattled the leaves above. It crescendoed into a deafening roar, echoing off the trees, leaving Sarah's ears ringing. Mom! I can't believe it! Liam cried, his face stricken with terror. They're not just shadows, they're coming for us. Stand your ground! She yelled, heart racing even faster, adrenaline surging through her veins. But within her, a bone-deep dread festered. Suddenly, the air cracked like thunder, and a figure broke free from the darkness, moving with uncanny fluidity. It was tall and slender, cloaked in shadow, yet the flickering light illuminated enough to catch a glimpse of its face. It was human or had been once. The eyes were hollow, skin stretched tight across a skeletal frame. This creature bore a twisted parody of humanity. Does the light not recognize its kin? The figure spoke, voice smooth and haunting. Join us, or perish in light's ignorance. Stay away from us. Sarah shouted, pushing Liam behind her. Rage surged through her like wildfire. Was this what the pendant fought against? This abominable mockery of life? The creatures buzzed closer, swirling like a tempest around them, claws outstretched. Their roars crescendoed, and Sarah grasped the pendant tighter, willing it to surge with all the strength she could muster. We are not afraid. But then, another shadow slithered forward, broader, darker, coalescing among the beasts. Sarah's breath caught at the sight. It didn't just resemble a man, it was covered in fur, its eyes burning the brightest shade she had ever seen, and it moved without hesitation, cutting through the dark like a knife. No! The twisted figure screeched, now a silhouette against the glowing beast. This cannot be. Mom, what is that? Liam's voice was barely a whisper, yet full of wonder. Before Sarah could answer, the tide of black surged toward them again, a relentless swarm seeking to engulf them entirely. The ground convulsed beneath her, cracks splitting wider as if the earth itself were clamoring to escape what was rising from its depths. With a frantic heart, Sarah felt the world around reach its saturation point, chaos and darkness swirling a perfect storm. She stared into the oncoming tide. It was either fight or drown. Liam, remember eternal shadows, be gone from here. This time, scream it. We need all the light we can muster. But as they braced themselves for the final onslaught, she couldn't help the sickening thought that gnawed at her. Was it the creature before them that was monstrous, or what lay lurking in the shadows of her own heart? A chilling howl erupted once more, drowning her thoughts as they readied for impact. As darkness closed in, uncertainty loomed. They faced not just an enemy but the very essence of fear. And then, above the cacophony, another sound emerged, a whisper, soft yet primal. It echoed from deep within the void, bearing a promise no one could decipher. Was the darkness about to break? In an instant, the air-shifted darkness swirled into a palpable mass, as if the shadows themselves had begun to breathe. Sarah felt a prickle at the back of her neck, an instinct screaming that nothing about this night would end well. The roar of twisted creatures fell silent, replaced by a hushed anticipation, a momentary calm that felt worse than the chaos preceding it. Mom! What is happening? Liam trembled, his small hand gripping tightly to her leg, his eyes wide with fear. The whisper grew louder, indiscernible yet insistent, wrapping around them like fog rolling in from the sea. You cannot escape. It slithered into Sarah's mind, planting seeds of doubt. What if they were doomed? The pendant flickered again, a heartbeat of light in an ocean of despair. Eternal shadows, be gone from here. She shouted, her voice cutting through the darkness like a knife. But the shadows merely rippled, mocking her fervor. Sarah! The beast, cloaked in fur with eyes like burning coals, was merging with the other terrors, ominous and alive. It snarled, revealing teeth that seemed far too white against the deep black of its body. Join us! The skeletal figure taunted, its voice a chilling song that echoed through the clearing. You wish to save your child, but what can light do against its own? It reached an elongated hand toward them, fingers outstretched in a horrific invitation. Liam flinched, squeezing Sarah's leg tighter. The darkness seemed to pulse as if alive, each flicker accompanied by growling whispers that danced around them, urging her to step closer into their embrace. She felt the struggle inside her, fear battling against the natural instinct of a mother to shield her child. Focus, Liam. We can't give in. Panic clawed at her throat, but she fought it off, forcing strength into her voice. What if we're not strong enough? She thought desperately, trying to keep the shivering doubt at bay. Liam, innocent as he was, picked up on her struggle. Mom, look. He pointed trembling fingers toward the glowing figure, the once humanoid shape now somehow more prominent, more alive, as if fed by their fear. It was the one glimmering beacon in this endless abyss. Eternal shadows, Sarah urged, but her voice caught. The ground beneath her feet began trembling again, the chill creeping into her bones as shadows whipped up, dense and heavy. The cry of the monstrous figure erupted, a gnashing combination of rage and torment that churned in her stomach. It hissed, your light means nothing. Binding oneself to this world brings you to despair. Each word dripped with malice, clawed fingers extending in a threatening wave to eye. In that moment, Sarah felt the pendant heat against her chest, the warmth pulsing in anxious rhythm. With an instinct she didn't understand, she lifted it high, the glow piercing the darkness, a clash of life against death. Eternal shadows, began. Sarah bellowed, feeling the words resonate deep within her. The shadows shivered, then recoiled only slightly, but enough to give her an aching sliver of hope. Liam! She cried out, determination surging forth, refueling with each flickering pulse. Scream it with me, now! Their voices intertwined, growing impossibly louder, a chorus of desperation that seemed to push back the encroaching maw of terror. Yet, just as hope seemed within reach, the sinister voice of the leader erupted anew. You think this will save you? You will only summon what lies deeper than the shadows, what dwells in your deeds. And then, as they held their breath, a grotesque figure surged from the gloom, a monstrosity born of nightmares, with limbs and faces of those long lost, writhing toward them, lost souls trapped in eternal torment and rage. "What have we done?" Sarah whispered, dread piercing through her. As the shadows writhed and the new horror drew nearer, all hope seemed eclipsed by the weight of their pasts, and an eerie tension enveloped the air. But then, through the surge of despair, a truth still flickered in Sarah's heart. Their only way out was through, but would they find the light to guide them or descend into the depths of their darkest fears, their fate entwined with those whispered shadows? A truth remained: was this darkness truly out for blood, or was it playing a game of souls? The shadows writhed and clawed at the edges of the clearing, swelling like a furious tide, and for a moment, Sarah felt the world constricting around them. No, she thought fiercely, every instinct screaming at her to fight. "We are not going to become another lost story here, Mom." Liam's trembling voice pulled her back, grounding her amid swirling dread. The pendant was alive, pulsing in rhythm with their racing hearts like a beacon against the relentless night. "Eternal shadows, be gone from here." They shouted together, a desperate rallying seer wide-out. It was then that a low growl erupted from the tallest figure in the dark, a creature that towered over the others, its eyes burning like coals. "You think you can banish the darkness?" The figure snarled, stepping forward. "You're foolish to believe hope still lingers." Each word dripped with disdain, yet as the creature advanced, the pendant in Sarah's hand flared, casting a golden light that forced the shadows back, igniting something deep within her, a flicker of resilience. "Stick together," she shouted, holding Liam's hand tightly. The warmth of his small grip anchored her resolve. "Fight with me." With an anguished howl, the monstrous figure lunged. But Sarah was ready, her cries rising over the cacophony. "Liam! We have to stand strong. Speak from your heart." "Eternal shadows," Liam echoed, louder now, "be gone from here. Light as power, united in fear." And the pendant soared in response, illuminating their surroundings, driving the dark into scared submission, at least momentarily. But even as they fought, she felt the weight of the past creeping back, an echo of their failures and regrets surfacing in the blackness. "You cannot escape what you are," the skeletal figure taunted. "We are the reflection of your worst fears, and you have summoned us, willingly." In a surge of desperation, Sarah closed her eyes, summoning all her strength. The memories flooded her of Liam laughing, her mother's warning, whispers of love that wove joy through the tapestry of her life. They were weapons against the encroaching void. "Join us or perish in despair." The fur-cloaked figure spat. "Never!" she shouted, emboldened. "We refuse you." And just like that, the air shifted. She felt Liam pulling at her, his eyes wide with the glow that mirrored the pendant. "Mommy, we can do it. Just trust the light." "Yes, trust it." With each chant, the strength of their words intertwined, forming bonds against the darkness. "Eternal shadows, be gone. You can't have us." The grotesque figures squealed, retreating as beams of light rushed out from the pendant, scattering shadows like birds taking flight. And yet, above everything a deeper dread lurked, a hum that resonated from the depths of the darkness itself, then a whisper wrapped around them, "You were so naive. Stay close," Sarah ordered, holding Liam protectively, her heart pounding. "We need to break their hold on us." The creatures lunged again, their forms shifting like liquid smoke, testing her resolve. "You are bound to us. You are the darkness as much as we are surrender." But at that moment, she felt something shift inside her. Maybe they were bound to their fears, but she could shatter that chain. She pulled Liam forward, the pendant glowing brighter as hope surged through the cracks of despair. "Trust, Liam. It comes from within." With strength building in their hearts, they shouted together once more. "We are not afraid. Eternal shadows, be gone." A burst of light surged from the pendant, blinding and powerful. It wrapped around them like a shield, illuminating the clearing and driving back the malevolence. The dark forms shrieked, disintegrating under the pure light, but Sarah knew, as they faced the darkest torrent, this was only the beginning. "No! This cannot be!" The cruel voice of the skeletal figure shrieked as it was pulled into the light, and suddenly, everything shifted. The ground trembled, the sky split open, and with a great surge, the darkness began to withdraw. Flickers of light bore down like tendrils, pushing through the suffocating shadows, a promise of dawn. Breaking through the unyielding night. "Mom!" Liam cried, his tiny face radiating hope. "Look!" Before them, a glow pierced through the shadows, revealing a path, winding like a lifeline. The voices twisted into a howling fury, chaotic and defiant, but there standing in the light was a figure in outline wrapped in warmth. "Tread your path, free hearts. The darkness cannot hold what shines." They grasped hands as they moved forward, not out of fear, but out of love. Each step down the glowing path stripped away the shadows, revealing their freedom. Each chant built upon the last, their voices rising stronger, combined with a thread of hope. They had broken the curse, and just like that, as dawn broke over the trees, the shadows recoiled, fleeing into the night, no longer a threat. In that golden light, they felt the weight of fear lift. The world opened, and with it, a new dawn awaited them. "Freedom!" Sarah shouted, the word echoing through the trees as cries of laughter filled the air. "Mommy, we did it!" Liam exclaimed, eyes sparkling with wonder and delight. "Yes, baby. Together we fought." She knelt, pulling him close, love washing over them as they emerged into the brightness of a new day. As the dawn painted the sky gold, the warmth of hope filled their hearts, a promise woven in each golden streak. This moment. This victory. They were free, and as they turned to leave the darkness behind, Sarah felt something new, a seed of courage blooming within. "Let us go home," she whispered, knowing they had conquered not just the shadows, but the fear that had lingered in their hearts. A new life awaited, but as they walked away, the remnants of darkness lingered, wishing for the day they would return. So as the screen fades, consider this a reminder: fear is powerful, but so is love. Don't forget to face your fears and fight together. This is the moment to stand up, to rise and be counted. And hey! You need to subscribe now because you do not want to miss what comes next. Each story is brought to life right here, so make sure to smash the like button now to fuel the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your thoughts about this wild conclusion. Your support is crucial. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey with us. Together, we can explore the unknown. Keep shining bright.